Okay, time for some man time. It's so easy to rewrite the truth. It takes no effort to rewrite the truth, which ultimately leads to rewriting history. One of my most earliest experiences with that is with my grandmother. You see, as a kid, I would hear stories about when my mother and her siblings were children, how my grandmother took care of them and my grandfather was not around or he was not doing what he was supposed to do. How he was out philandering while my grandmother was taking care of them, doing their hair, getting them ready for school, getting them to and from school, etc., etc., etc. My grandmother would often complain that she has to do everything alone. It didn't correlate to what I saw by the time I came around and what my grandfather used to do for my cousins and I, but my mother and my aunt and my uncle or two used to say, well, that's what he does for his grandchildren, as if it's not the same as he did for his children. Like, okay. During this time frame, it was very early in my life. My grandmother used to love to gamble. So she was a numbers head. She would always send us to the number man or the number lady. If anybody knows about that, that's horse track and dog track betting. I'm from Miami, so in Miami we also had Highline. My grandmother would get paid on Friday and be at the Highline by 6:30, 7 o'clock p.m. One day would turn to 2 days. 2 days would turn to three. Three would turn to four. Four would turn to five. Five would turn to six. Six would sometimes turn to seven. Sometimes 7 days a week, my grandmother went to the dog track, horse track, or the Highline. Sometimes she'd take me and my cousins with her, teach us how to do it. When she'd hit, she'd go to the swap meet or the swap shop and to the flea market. And her and my aunt would go to the Chinese food restaurant and to KFC, and they'd buy food and bring food home for everybody. And you'd find out she bought drapes, she bought curtains, she bought shower curtains, towel sets, she bought all types of whatnots and stuff like that for the house. And you think, yo, she got a lot of money. She'd buy a whole bunch of grocery and stuff like that for the house. She'd spend all of her paycheck on these things because she had the extra money. She'd even give people money. You need some money? You good? You want some money? And we thought that shit was love. About 4 years later, around 16, I realized it was bait. You see, she'd give you $50 and then she'd ask you for $400. The hustle is real, nigga. She'd buy you a pack of shirts and then she'd tell you to pay the light bill. She'd buy the food and throw a family gathering so we can all eat and come over. And then when we all come over and eat, it was her way of next time when she's able to ask you for something, it smooths it out. Then I started to understand my grandfather. But it took for me to be in a man's position first, or be in that man's position first, to see. My grandfather used to bring the money home and give it to me to give to my grandmother, and my grandmother would still say she didn't have any money. And although I just gave her the money, I would hear her say that. And then when my uncle would come over, she'd say she doesn't have any money. He'd give her money, and then he'd leave. And then my other uncle would come over, and my other uncle would come over. And each time someone came over, she'd say she didn't have any money. She'd go, she'd lose, she'd lose, she'd lose, she'd win, she'd win, she'd win, she'd win, and she never had any money. And if you told her no or tried to cap her, when she asked you for anything, she said the same thing about you that she said about her husband. That you don't give her anything. You see? Rewriting truth, ultimately rewriting history. I would hear their arguments and he'd let her know, I'm not giving you any more money. And then it dawned on me, this is what my mother and my aunt and uncles used to talk about. It seems as if he's always giving her money. She just is horrible with fucking money. She wants things, and I understood why, because she didn't live life. My grandmother didn't go out to dinner. She didn't go out to movies. She only went to gamble and shop. Losing money, spending money. Winning money, spending money. And hustling everybody in between to do it. Only thing is, her children couldn't see her in any other light other than mother. Although they knew. You see? Rewriting truth, rewriting history. Then they grew up believing everything that she said as opposed to looking at what she did. Rewriting truth, rewriting history. Sure, they saw what their father did. They saw what their mother did. They spoke about what their father did, and they spoke about what their mother did amongst one another. But they'd speak about what their father did in public. They wouldn't speak about what their mother did in public. Rewriting truth, rewriting history. And they called that rewrite love. Crazy part about it is my grandmother actually died at the High Line, at her favorite place, doing what she loved to do. I had never seen my grandmother go to the park and play around in the park. Had never seen her go do anything that women would typically want to do with other women. She was a house body and she was a gambling place body. She never went out of town with my grandfather when he would go out of town unless it was to a family reunion once. Yeah. Rewriting truth, rewriting history. Even to the point where my mother and my aunt used to lie about having money or not having money, just like their mother. And where do we think they learned it from? And doing the same thing to their children, rewriting truth, rewriting history. Unbeknownst to them, whether you rewrite it or not, it's still truth and history. Whether you didn't want people to see it or know it or not, they saw it and they know the truth, the history. Just like mothers who lie and say their kids' fathers don't give them money, although they do. They don't buy clothes and shoes, although she rejected them and turned them away because it wasn't on her terms. Wasn't what she wanted them to have. You know, like the chick who baby daddy bought McDonald's for the kid, and because he ain't buy for the other kids, she turned that away. And then she'll say, he don't do. Most of us in these situations have been through it. Not just my grandfather, not just me, not just you. Rewriting truth, rewriting history. But here's the crazy part. My grandfather died first, and then my grandmother died shortly after. My grandmother left debt as an inheritance. My grandfather left his children land as an inheritance. So the do nothing did everything, and the do everything did nothing. And called it love. Rewriting truth. Rewriting history. But what do I know? I'm an asshole. So, till next time, maybe you can show me how I'm rewriting truth, rewriting history. And let's get the conversation started. Man time.